When a homeless man approached Clint Eastwood with a simple request for $1, he probably didn't realize it would lead to one of the most unforgettable encounters of his life. For decades, Clint Eastwood has been known as a Hollywood legend, a tough guy both on screen and off. But beneath his rugged exterior lies a man of principle, depth, and often surprising humility. The story begins on a crisp afternoon in Carmel-by-the-Sea, California, a quaint coastal town where Eastwood once served as mayor. Known for its charm and quiet elegance, the town is an unlikely setting for a tale about homelessness. Yet, as Clint was leaving a local cafe, this man, disheveled but polite, approached him. He wasn't aggressive or demanding, just a man, down on his luck, asking for the smallest of favors. Clint Eastwood could have ignored him, as many people might. He could have walked away without a second thought. But what happened next was something that defied expectations. Clint didn't just stop. He looked the man directly in the eye, his piercing gaze carrying both curiosity and compassion. "What do you need the dollar for?" Clint asked, not in a judgmental tone, but with genuine interest. The man hesitated for a moment, surprised that this Hollywood icon was even engaging him. "I'm just trying to get by," the man replied. "It's been a rough day and I need something to eat." Clint nodded, processing the man's words, but instead of simply pulling out his wallet, he did something unexpected. "Why don't you come with me?" Clint said, gesturing toward a nearby diner. The man looked puzzled. He wasn't used to this kind of kindness, let alone from someone so famous. But Clint's invitation was sincere, so he followed. Inside the diner, Clint waved to the waitress and ordered 2 meals. He told the man to sit down and eat, treating him as an equal, not as someone beneath him. As they ate, Clint began asking questions, not out of obligation, but out of genuine interest. He wanted to know the man's story, how he ended up in this situation, what his dreams once were, and what he needed to get back on his feet. The man, whose name was Mark, opened up in a way he hadn't in years. He spoke about losing his job, battling addiction, and the struggles of trying to rebuild his life while feeling invisible to the world around him. Clint listened intently, never interrupting or offering platitudes. When Mark finished, Clint leaned back and said, "You've had a tough run, but it's not over yet. You're still here, and that means you've got another chance." After their meal, Clint didn't just wish Mark luck and leave. Instead, he reached into his pocket and handed Mark a crisp $100 bill. But it wasn't just about the money. Clint also wrote down the address of a local shelter he had supported over the years. "Go here," he said. "They'll help you get back on your feet. And don't waste this," he added, referring to the money. "Make it count." Mark was overwhelmed. It wasn't just the generosity that moved him, it was the way Clint treated him like a person, with dignity and respect. That encounter became a turning point for Mark. Inspired by Clint's words and actions, he sought help at the shelter and began taking steps to rebuild his life. For Clint Eastwood, this was just another day. He didn't do it for publicity or recognition. In fact, the story only came to light years later when Mark shared it in an interview, crediting Clint as the man who gave him hope when he thought all was lost. This moment serves as a reminder that even small gestures can have a profound impact. Clint Eastwood didn't just give Mark money, he gave him time, kindness, and the belief that he was worth helping. In a world where it's easy to turn a blind eye, Clint's actions speak volumes about his character. What makes this story even more powerful is how it reflects Clint's philosophy in life and art. Throughout his career, his characters often stood up for the underdog, fought for justice, and showed that one person's actions could make a difference. It turns out that this isn't just a role he plays on screen, it's who he is in real life. So the next time you see Clint Eastwood on the big screen, remember this story. Remember that behind the iconic scowl and the gritty dialogue is a man who believes in helping others, not because he has to, but because it's the right thing to do. And for the rest of us, perhaps there's something to take away from this story. Maybe it's a reminder to slow down, to see the humanity in others, and to realize that even the smallest acts of kindness can change someone's life. You don't have to be a Hollywood legend to make a difference. You just have to care. Mark's journey isn't just a testament to his resilience, but also to the power of compassion. And Clint Eastwood, in that brief yet meaningful encounter, showed that sometimes being a hero doesn't require a script or a camera. It just requires a heart. Mark's story didn't end with that $100 bill or a meal in the diner. That moment of kindness became a catalyst for a series of changes in his life. Encouraged by Clint Eastwood's words, Mark began to see himself in a new light, not as a lost cause, but as someone with the potential to rebuild. He checked into the shelter Clint recommended, where he found not only a bed, but also resources to address his challenges, including job placement programs and counseling services. Over time, Mark began taking small but meaningful steps forward. He worked odd jobs, saved what little he could, and attended support groups to confront the struggles that had led to his homelessness. While it wasn't an overnight transformation, Mark held on to the memory of that day in the diner. A moment when someone famous, successful, and seemingly untouchable had seen value in him when he couldn't see it in himself. That memory became his motivation to keep going. Years later, Mark had managed to turn his life around. He secured a stable job in construction, rented a modest apartment, and reconnected with family members he hadn't seen in years. In interviews, he often credited Clint Eastwood not just for the money or the meal, but for treating him like a person worthy of dignity and respect. What makes this story so impactful isn't just the transformation in Mark's life, but the ripple effect of Clint Eastwood's actions. Mark, inspired by the kindness shown to him, began to pay it forward. On weekends, he volunteered at the same shelter that had helped him, sharing his story with others who found themselves in the same position he once was. He would often tell them, "If someone like Clint Eastwood could take the time to believe in me, there's no reason you can't believe in yourself." Clint Eastwood, for his part, never sought recognition for this act of kindness. To him, it wasn't about being a hero or making headlines, it was simply about doing the right thing. But this story has resonated with so many because it shows a side of Eastwood that's rarely seen. While the world knows him as the tough guy who doesn't flinch in the face of danger, those close to him know him as someone deeply grounded, someone who values authenticity, and someone who understands the importance of using his influence for good. It's easy to idolize celebrities, to put them on pedestals as larger-than-life figures who exist in a world far removed from ours. But stories like this remind us that even the most iconic figures can connect with the simplest human experiences: empathy, kindness, and the desire to help someone in need. What's particularly striking about Clint Eastwood's response is how intentional it was. Giving the man $1 and walking away would have been easy. It would have been a small act of charity, appreciated but fleeting. But by taking the time to engage with Mark, to share a meal, and to point him toward resources that could truly change his circumstances, Clint showed what it means to go beyond charity and practice compassion. In a way, this story also mirrors themes we've seen in Eastwood's films. His characters often embody a moral code, stepping in to help the vulnerable, even when it's inconvenient or risky. In real life, Clint Eastwood demonstrated that same moral code, proving that his on-screen persona is deeply rooted in his real-life values. For those who hear this story, the lesson is clear. Small actions can have a lasting impact. You don't have to be a celebrity to make a difference. Sometimes all it takes is noticing someone, acknowledging their humanity, and showing them that they matter. Whether it's through a kind word, a small gesture, or simply listening to their story, you have the power to change someone's perspective, and perhaps their life. As for Clint Eastwood, his legacy continues to grow, not just as an actor, director, and cultural icon, but as a person who embodies quiet strength and genuine compassion. It's not the kind of story that makes headlines or garners awards, but it's the kind that stays with you, a reminder that even the smallest interactions can leave a mark on the world. In the end, this encounter isn't just a story about Clint Eastwood or Mark. It's a story about the human connection, about seeing people for who they are rather than where they are. And maybe, just maybe, it's a story that inspires each of us to look at the world a little differently, to act with a little more kindness, and to believe in the power of one moment to change a life. The beauty of Clint Eastwood's response lies in its simplicity. He He didn't use his fame or resources to create a grand gesture. He didn't call the press or make a spectacle of the moment. What he did was something that so many of us forget to do in our fast-paced lives. He slowed down, paid attention, and treated someone who had been overlooked by society as an equal. This is the kind of story that reminds us of the power of human decency. Clint's actions weren't performative. They were rooted in authenticity. He could have easily walked past, as countless others probably had, but he chose to stop and engage. And that's where the magic of this moment lies, not in the amount of money he gave, but in the message he sent to Mark and, indirectly, to all of us. That message: everyone deserves to be seen, heard, and valued, no matter their circumstances. What's striking about this story is the way it shows how interconnected we all are. A man like Clint Eastwood, who has achieved a level of fame and success that most of us can only imagine, still saw himself as no different from Mark, a man sitting on the sidewalk with nowhere to go. It's a testament to Clint's humility and his understanding of the human condition. Life, he seemed to suggest through his actions, is unpredictable, and the line between success and hardship can sometimes be thinner than we realize. And perhaps this is why Clint's gesture resonates so deeply. It's easy to assume that a Hollywood icon, someone whose name is recognized across the globe, wouldn't have time or energy for such a small, quiet act of kindness. But Clint Eastwood has always been different. He's built his career and his reputation on authenticity. Whether he's directing award-winning films or taking a stand for something he believes in, Clint operates with integrity. This story is just another example of that. What's even more inspiring is how Mark took this moment and allowed it to transform his life. It's one thing to receive kindness, but it's another to use it as motivation to change. Mark could have easily taken the $100 and continued living the way he had been, but Clint's words and actions lit a spark in him. That spark became a fire of determination, and Mark's life began to change because of it. In a way, this story is also a reminder that kindness can create ripples. Clint's one small act didn't just change Mark's day, it changed his life. And in turn, Mark began to change the lives of others by sharing his story, volunteering, and paying it forward. It's proof that when we choose to help someone, we're not just helping one person, we're potentially starting a chain reaction of positivity that could impact countless others. For Clint, this was likely just one moment in a lifetime of similar acts of kindness. After all, he's known for his quiet generosity, often supporting causes and communities without seeking recognition. But for Mark, it was everything. It was a moment that reminded him he wasn't invisible, that someone believed in him, and that it wasn't too late to turn his life around. When we think of heroes, we often think of people who make grand sacrifices or perform extraordinary feats. But sometimes, heroism is as simple as stopping to care, to listen, and to help. Clint Eastwood's response to that $1 request wasn't just about the money. It was about the connection he made with another human being. It was about reminding Mark and all of us that kindness is powerful, transformative, and something we're all capable of. So, the next time you pass someone on the street, remember this story. Remember that even a small gesture can make a big difference. You don't have to be a Hollywood star to change someone's life. You just have to be willing to care. Clint Eastwood's legacy may be defined by his legendary films and iconic roles, but this story adds another layer to it. A reminder that true greatness lies in how we treat others, especially those who have been forgotten. And who knows? Maybe the next time someone asks you for help, you'll stop and think about what Clint Eastwood did that day. Maybe you'll decide to give a little more of your time, your attention, and your compassion. Because if there's one thing this story proves, it's that kindness, no matter how small, can create a ripple effect that changes lives. And isn't that the kind of legacy we all want to leave behind?